Hello, my name's Laurel Pepworth, and what are the 4 things that you need to know about Facebook and Twitter? So the first one for me is to look at the optimization of the newsfeed. Make sure you get into your customers' news feeds. And then a practical tip for doing that, how to exactly do the cover photo, how often to change it, what's important. Also, linking to people on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and the others, making sure that they know that you're talking about them so they can share your content, and the power of Twitter lists. So customers miss about 94% of updates to them. Facebook has a very specific way of choosing that 5 or 6% that they're going to show them, and that number actually might be even less today. Most people sit on top stories, which means really they're missing an awful lot. How Facebook works this out is it gives everybody in your social network, they call it the social graph, a score. So your mum, that's me, my mum, my best friend, and my boyfriend, they get high scores. They get like 10 out of 10. People that I work with and maybe don't interact with very often, don't like share or comment their stuff, they don't get that many points, maybe 5 points each. And then there are random strangers like people I went to school with I haven't spoken to for ages, and they get 1 point. So anytime those guys interact with a piece of content, they get different points in my system. And then Facebook looks at the social graph and looks at the social object, the photo or status update, and gives them all a point and says, this update had 12, 13, 14 of your friends liking it, 3 or 4 of them sharing it. It gave them different points depending on how close they were as friends to me, and then said, yes, you can see this, or no, I don't think, if your friends aren't interested in it, you won't be interested in it. So it's really important that we get our fans and people who like our page interacting with us. And my biggest tip around this would be to do things like create a Facebook cover in a service called canva.com, and you can save all your Facebook covers here, so you can do many of them, and it's really easy to use. It's much easier to use than Photoshop. So I upload images, I change the background to purple, and then I put text buttons in that have a call to action, like click here, do this, do something. Once I've saved this, and it's usually you click download and save as an image, now I can upload it to my Facebook page. This is a little play page that I just use for classes. And here's the image. Click here for more info. When people click on it, make sure you filled this in with lots of text that's interesting to them, like tips, and a call to action like click here or do this. And in this case, it takes people to an article on how to write a social media strategy, which then takes them to a course. If you notice that this is empty on your cover photos, click edit and you can add your call to action. You can change the cover here, and Canva will save your images for you. So you could do a dozen of them, change it once a month, and that's a way of making sure you get into the newsfeed with a lovely big image and a strong call to action. The next thing we have to do is make sure that when we post something up that we tag people, whether it's Facebook with the plus or whether it's Twitter with the @ symbol. Make sure that you go onto the page, and when you do the update, you do plus Blue Mountains, for instance. This photographer's in the Blue Mountains, and that will highlight that person or that page, pages can only take pages, and let them know that they've been mentioned. So here's an example of a photo that talks about a little bit about the photo, some of the technical stuff about the photo, and then tags the Blue Mountains and tags Australian Geographic. And both of those pages have 160 to 200,000 likes on their page. And in fact, this photographer has since got work from Australian Geographic by posting the photos and tagging them from time to time on the page. If you're on Twitter, you do the same thing with the @ symbol, but there's an even better way of interacting with people on Twitter, and I'll show you what I do. I go to their account and I add them to a list. So if you go to twitter.com/silkcharm/list, you'll see all my lists. And on my list, as an example, I've got some lists on here such as not-for-profits, gamification, education, CEOs that are on Twitter, influencers, all sorts of different people. And I find it kind of interesting to follow them. So if we have a look at the Entrepreneur VC list, this is my Entrepreneur VC list, and you can see that I've added, for instance, David Scott, John Doerr. They're well-known entrepreneurs and venture capitalists. In fact, if I click on John, then go to the little cog, add or remove from lists, I can add him to one of my lists or create a list and add him to that one. Once I've got all the people on the list, sorry, that was the one I wanted. I click on tweets and now I see all the tweets just from the people on that list. So it's a good way of you tracking what's going on in your industry and staying ahead of the game. What I like though is to go into the search up here and write venture capital in, type in venture capital. Make sure you come down to timelines and then you'll see other people's lists. So I can click on, I don't know, let's see, tech investors. And once I'm on this list, I go to list members and I can start adding people to my own list as well, or I can subscribe to the list. Once I've done that, I go to Paper.ly, which is an online newspaper, and I say create paper. And when I've created the paper, it brings the list in and makes a newspaper for me online. And now I can Facebook, tweet, or otherwise share the articles that are being tweeted by that group and only that group. So this is my top venture capitalists, and these are the tweets that are coming through. And I just think it looks kind of prettier or nicer than sitting here and reading this. And maybe you like the Twitter interface. I like the newspaper one. So make sure you understand Facebook optimization, which means you have to keep putting up content with a call to action, asking people to click on it, like it, share it, make sure it's their friends that are interacting as well. One way to do that is to change your cover photo on a regular basis. Remember to edit it afterwards. Put in a call to action like click here, link on this link, that sort of thing. Make sure you get into discussions by tagging people with the plus name on Facebook, like plus Blue Mountains, or the @ name on Twitter, such as Dave McClure or some of the venture capitalists, and bring them into your discussions and put them on a list on Twitter, and then you can check the list, read what they're saying, and you can even make a little newspaper with Paper.ly out of it. I hope you enjoyed those top 4 tips. Lots more, but we're out of time. Thank you.